Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to a moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in the Going Deep segment brought to you by CO2 Lift in our Expert on the Microphone series. Today we're joined by the amazing Karmen LaMer, founder of Tight Clinic in Toronto, Canada. Coming from a corporate background with over 15 years in the jewelry industry, at 30 years old, she was diagnosed with cancer, prompting her to shift her career to health and wellness. Starting from scratch in 2019, her own medical aesthetics clinic, Tight Clinic, was born, with Karmen herself performing treatments as the sole proprietor and practitioner. You fast forward to present day, Tight Clinic now has 2 locations and over 23 widely versed staff members. With a focus on new technology and growth within the medical aesthetics field, Karmen joins me today to chat all about combating the aging process without resorting to knives and needles, and how products like CO2 Lift can enhance results and recovery. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So
Excited to be here.
Yeah, so excited to have you on. You are glowing and beautiful. Can't wait for people to see this segment. Let's dive right in. So, when it comes to skincare and aesthetic treatments, there's a long list of options to combat the aging process. And while many turn to Botox and fillers or even surgical procedures, you're an expert and advocate for effective solutions that would provide long lasting, dramatic results without resorting to the knives and needles. Fittingly, when you look at recent years, there has been a noticeable shift in patient preferences towards these non invasive or minimally invasive procedures over surgical options. Now, in your expert opinion, what do you believe is driving this increasing demand for non invasive procedures and products?
So I feel in the last couple of years, people have really looked at what's out there and what people's faces have started to look like as they have piled in fillers and piled in the Botox. And then the term pillow face was coined and everyone got scared. So I feel like the trends that are driving in our business right now are going to be non-invasive skin tightening with things such as HIFU, which is the high intensity focused ultrasound, things like microneedling, RF microneedling, Tixel, any sort of things that are going to tighten and lift the face without adding unnecessary and scary volume to it.
Yeah, it's that volume that they're adding, and even behind your actual facial lines, like tucking behind the ears and like really hiding it in places where you know it's going to eventually migrate and you're going to look like a round egg. now,
Yes.
now I know
Yes.
at Tight Clinic you stay up to date and have the most cutting edge technologies and the medical grade products on hand, but specifically you highlight In Mode Forma, which is a skin tightening solution, has been used by celebrities like Kim and Kourtney Kardashian and Christy Teigen and Ashley Tisdale and Emma Roberts, and that's just to name a few. So it's quite popular. What makes In Mode Forma stand out compared to other skin tightening treatments?
So In Mode Forma was actually the very first thing that we offered. It was the very first and only platform that we had when I first started out. And keep in mind, I started out in my condo. I couldn't afford a space and a machine. So that was all that we had. And we were one of the first in Canada to offer it. A lot of the content creators and a lot of the influencers and a lot of the general public had heard about this, weren't able to get it here. You had to fly to New York or fly to LA, and I believe it was like 600 or 800 US dollars per session. So when we brought this in, I was gearing to focus on everyone from 25 years old up to 60 years old. But the 25-year-olds, there's no way that they're going to be able to afford 800 US dollars because you have to do 6 of them spaced about a week apart. So I priced them at 250 and we were incredibly busy. We were booked months out because again, we were the only people offering this. So the premise behind it was radio frequency and heat are going to go underneath of your skin. Very not painless at all. Uses some ultrasound gel, feels like a hot stone massage on your face. You do 6 sessions and it's going to tighten up that jaw, tighten up your nasolabials and just rejuvenate the skin very non-invasively. So that's what we started with. And that was our most popular treatment for a very long time until I went to Japan and Korea last year because they really know what's happening over there. And I went for 3 weeks and I went to, I would say, at least 30 consultations to plastic surgery clinics, to doctor's offices, to dermatologists, to skin spas. And I found out what they were doing there. And so we basically brought back Canada's version of that, which is now HIFU. and the Tixel. It's so popular over there, and I had never really heard that term before. When I went there, every single office had like 10 different variations, and everyone over there looks so tight. Like you can't tell anyone's age. It's unbelievable.
Wow, this is so proprietary. You're getting me very excited, and my listeners are Googling it right now. So let's bring CO2 lift into the picture. As we know, carboxytherapy has been around since the 1930s, injecting carbon dioxide gas underneath the skin. But CO2 lift was able to remodel this in a new delivery system as a topical gel mask. And while it has many monotherapy benefits, it can also be used in combo therapies, both pre and post procedure. I know you're familiar and a big fan of the product. How does CO2 Lift fit into your broader treatment plans, and how have you firsthand seen it improve a patient's results and recovery?
So when we first received the product, I wasn't really sure, there's so many things that come out and I was like, okay, this is another thing. And I know how clients feel about add-ons. A lot of the time they're like, well, I just spent 500 or 900 or $1,000. So I was like, what is this and how does it work? So my first experience with it was I did something crazy very, very normal with me. I did quite an invasive peel and they microneedled it into my face. Number one, imagine how much that hurts.
Oh my God.
And then imagine after, like, you're gonna have to do the healing from the microneedling plus the healing from the peel. I was terrified. And my lead facialist was like, "You need to put the CO2 mask on after." And I was like, "Anything that's gonna help, fine." So I took a picture hour by hour after having this mask on, and my face should have been in bad shape for probably 5 days. I'm not joking. Within 24 hours, I looked completely normal. And I was literally shocked. So now, anyone who comes in for anything like even slightly invasive, if you're doing RF microneedling, if you're doing Morpheus 8, if you're doing regular microneedling, if you're doing Tixel, if you're doing ablative things to your eyelids, if you're doing any sort of ablative laser, you're leaving with this on your face. And it's actually become kind of a funny thing because our building is like a beautiful ivy covered building downtown Toronto, but it's like in a residential area. And the neighbors laugh because they're like, everyone leaves your clinic looking like a melted candle. People just leave and get in their car with CO2 on. It's so common. Like I would say 90% of the time now, anything invasive, people are walking out looking like a melted candle.
I love this. And are there any specific treatments that you find that CO2 Lift pairs exceptionally well with?
Honestly, absolutely anything that gives you an effed up face. Like, again, we can microneedle and we can go like 2.5 millimeters deep, where somebody might have a week of downtime. If you're doing CO2 lift immediately after, you're going to be fine the next day. And it's actually been so amazing for us because a lot of the women that come are professionals. They're, celebrities or people who are on TV or they're content creators. And people get so hesitant to do treatments because they can't have any downtime. And now with this, you don't really have to have any downtime. You just have to go to the doctor for the day and then go home and look fine the next day. And even with people who come in, we have a lot of moms that come in and like they'll have 2 or 3 year olds who smash their head on a coffee table and like they don't want them to be scarred for life. And I'm like, put CO2 lift on the child.
Yeah,
So
I put CO2 on my daughter's burn in Jamaica. She's 9. Her face she's very pale and her face blistered on day 2, and I put CO2 and the next day she was perfectly fine. So something I love about it, it's what we're talking about, the regenerative utilizing power of carbon dioxide to naturally trigger that increase in oxygen and blood supply that in turn increases hydration and elasticity and thickens the epithelium and overall improves functionality. There's a science behind this. We're not just raving about a mask that you can go buy at Sephora, right?
correct.
Not to mention it's so simple to use and to your point can be applied in the comfort of one's home. So for those who are new to the world of aesthetics but are eager to slow down or even reverse the signs of aging, what are some simple effective treatments with minimal downtime that you would recommend as a starting point?
As a starting point, I would definitely, like, first off, just with the basics, recommend doing a facial quarterly. Like, as the seasons change, do a bespoke facial, go into an expert, make sure that they're taking a good look at your skin, giving you an educated opinion. And going into the clinic to have those procedures done and following it up with home care is amazing. Anyone from the age of 25 plus, I would suggest starting to do something that rebuilds your collagen and tightens your skin, such as Forma, such as HIFU, such as Tixel. and even microneedling, because after 25 we start losing collagen and it starts dropping every single year, and that's why people end up, having their face fall and trying to fill it up with too much filler. So being preventative, I think, is definitely the key. And then again, as we were speaking about filler trends changing, we have 7 nurses on staff, and we do fillers. We do tasteful fillers. However, this is the year of like the minimal, and I feel like PRF has been so popular. And for people who don't want anything that is not their own body matter in their face, you can come in, they'll take your blood, put it in the centrifuge, remove your plasma, turn it into PRF, and it turns into a very viscous material. And you can inject it under eyes, nasolabial folds, and you can microneedle the rest into your face. And it's just so good for you. So I think prevention is the key, and just being consistent as much as possible.
That's great advice. Now, lastly, I know you're also the co-founder of the Collective Women's Empowerment Summit. I love that, which unites women from all different backgrounds to connect, grow, and drive meaningful impact. So what inspired you to create this event, and what impact have you seen so far for women in both your field and others?
So I feel like when I first started my business, nobody told me how to do anything, and I had to find everything out on my own. And it's always so like disappointing, and it's always so hard like asking people for help and not being able to get it and having just to raw dog it, try and figure out what you're doing. Every client that I would get was from a different industry, and these women would tell me stories of how they built something incredible from nothing. And I was so inspired by all of these stories. And about a year goes by, and one of my first clients, she's a worldwide event producer, and she produces events for like Ferrari, for Porsche, for all sorts of crypto all across the world, in Singapore and in China and in Europe. And she knows how to put on an incredible, incredible event. She goes, "You know what? You've been telling me these stories for the past year." And she's like, "I really think we need to unite women and inspire women and have different panel sessions with people from different industries telling real stories and really inspiring one another." And so, actually, our inaugural event was last year in March. And we had 500 guests at the Park Hyatt. We had some incredible sponsors. The day started at 7 a.m., it ended at 7 p.m. It was like the full meal deal. And it was so inspiring. I think everyone left making friends. There was like laughter, there was tears. It was such a beautiful experience. And we benefit the Canadian Women's Foundation. So everything goes back to a community that really needs that. And they really need that for the resources. And they're able to do so much with their initiatives.
Oh,
So
wow. God bless you. Well, we are at the end of this date, my dear. Thank you so much for coming on. You inspired me, you educated me and our audience, and I had a lot of fun doing it. I can't thank you enough.
thank you so much for having me. You're an angel. This was so fun and so amazing.
That was our Going Deep segment brought to you by CO2 Lift, and that was the incredible Karmen LaMer. To learn more about Tight Clinic, head to tightclinic.com and definitely check her out on the gram at Tight Clinic. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by CO2 Lift. As we age, our skin loses moisture and elasticity, causing wrinkled skin. You can reverse this aging process with CO2 Lift. CO2 Lift utilizes the powerful benefits of carbon dioxide to lift, tighten, and regenerate your skin. This simple, painless at-home carboxytherapy treatment is scientifically proven to reverse the aging process. You will see reduction in wrinkles, increase luminosity, and improve pigmentation, sagging, skin tone, and radiance.
For more information or to order CO2 Lift, ask your skincare professional or go to co2lift.com.